name is Claudia Bereshneyi. I am currently a graduate student in the Education Department here at Temple University, Ambler. My major is Adult and Organizational Development. During my undergrad, I was also a Temple student, and I was in a liberal arts school for a major that is no longer offered, but I loved it. It was called Organizational Studies, which was a liberal arts business major. In both my undergraduate and my graduate work, I have taken online courses, and that's really what I'm here to speak about, my perception, what I've learned about my study habits, and how I really do enjoy the experience altogether. During my undergraduate work, I had done a synchronous, I believe it's called, class where we would have to meet at a certain time. During that time, we also had chats that we had to keep on top of. We had a certain amount of chats that we had to do per week based on the readings, based on the course materials, but we didn't have anything to listen to except during our class meetings. The current class that I'm taking in my graduate work, which is it's one of my electives, is in public health. It's all asynchronous, meaning that it's all on your time. I can even take my tests whenever I would like to. If I'm really ahead of the game, I can take my tests ahead of the game. I can do everything on my own time and at my own pace. In both experiences, I would say that simplicity was the key. What was nice is having within the syllabus the links to readings or to the recordings or to articles of interest or to maybe guidelines for papers. I liked the more simple it was, the happier that I was, because I'm actually kind of on the cusp of the age of technology. I was probably a senior in high school before I actually was on the internet. So while I'm not totally really comfortable with technology, I'm also not completely that I don't know what I'm doing. So it was nice, though, to have the simplicity of not having to dig through many toolbars on the side to get to the information that you needed. Another really nice thing that I was happy with both classes, which actually I feel like would even be helpful in syllabuses for traditional classes, is actually to break down weekly what is expected of you. It's nice to know, that you're expected to see, to be involved in this chat. We're expecting these kinds of chats. We're expecting these kind of responses from you. We're expecting these kind of readings to be read, and we're expecting these papers and or tests to be done. Again, it simplifies the process. So you don't have to, again, be digging or feel confused as to if you're in the right spot, if you're doing the right things. It makes life a little bit easier that way. I would also say that I have learned that in online courses, whereas some people think that it's easier, that you can slip through the cracks, you don't have to do as much work, I find the opposite is true. I find that it's actually a little bit more stimulating because you have to reply to chats, because you have to show that you understand and are taking in the data that you're being given. So it's not as easy to just sit and listen and not give your opinion, because if you're not giving your opinion, obviously the professor isn't sure that you're retaining the data that you need. So I've actually found that that's totally different, and so you have to be on your game if you're taking an online course. And I've also found that it seems like for online courses that professors, it's because you are guiding the class far more concretely, that you have to really cherry pick the different readings, the different things we listen to. The time, I feel like, is used very wisely. The readings all support what you're doing in the class, and they tend to be a little bit more really supportive. Like, you don't read something and think, I don't understand how that fit in, because you're taking such a large class of people that you don't know their personalities very well. You don't know, you don't get eye contact. You don't get that kind of feedback. You really need to guide the class more, and I appreciate that. I appreciate really feeling like I learned a whole lot at the end of the course. I also enjoyed, with the sort of cherry picking of the readings, is that the readings are many times available online. The professors can do that. The online readings are fantastic. Even if you do traditional classes, if you can get some of the online reading, because it's wonderful. While I still love the feel of a book, and I love the feel of paper in my hands, I also appreciate being able to read books on mobile media devices, or the readings the readings can be accessed anywhere. So if you have a spare moment, you can really access those readings, which is fabulous. Now, as for, I should also say that I was an adult student when I came to Temple University. So I came in with a lot of work knowledge. I came in with a lot of, the more adult knowledge. So I wasn't looking to make best friends with people in my classes. I really liked the people in my classes, but I wasn't looking for the friendship aspect. But I have to say that in online courses, I feel like feedback is given far more easily, and you're less afraid in a way of what people think about what you're going to say, because you have the time to think about what you're typing. You have the time to process what you're about to enter onto the website. So you have that extra moment of reflection so that you can be really articulate and you can bring your best foot forward to the class. So it tends to also be a lot more succinct in the conversation that is had in the class, and I really appreciated that. I can't say that I would know anyone, if I was walking down the street, because I never actually saw pictures of the people in my class. I never saw the people in my class, but I would have to say that I did still appreciate that the knowledge that they brought forth and their opinions and their feelings about the different courses that I took. So it was still very appropriate, and I felt it was very I learned a lot. Oh, the live classroom. The live classroom was very interesting for me. I actually had to, because I didn't have I had to come to our computer lab here because I didn't have the stuff at home to take the class, which was fine for me. It was so that I would have access to the different programs and all that without having another expense. But honestly, I took the class 4 years ago. So now students have access. Most students will have access to the live chat. And I was really afraid. I was really afraid because at the time I didn't type very quickly. So I was afraid that I was going to miss something, miss notes, or but it was nice to just hear everyone's voices. It was nice. I would have to say that it really wasn't much different than having a class in person, except that obviously I wasn't in my pajamas. I mean, that's usually the joke that people say, well, you can be in your pajamas when you take online courses. Obviously, I was in the computer lab, so I couldn't do that. But it really wasn't that much different. The interaction was about the same. We joked around with one another. We talked about the course. We talked about the expectations. So it really wasn't that much different. I would think that the professor wasn't much different for the professor as well, because and what was interesting too, because there was an electronic media aspect to it. So I almost enjoyed it more because we would have our class time and we would talk about the different class things. And then, because it wasn't just 50 minutes, okay, we're done, let's go, there was time to go on the online chat and say, I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about this. And then somebody would say, oh, I was thinking about that. And so it was almost more organic to talk about different subjects because you could come back to it later, whereas in a class, your syllabus says we're going to talk about A today. And we're just talking about A today. We won't be covering that again until we, go to review about the test. Where it's a little bit more organic with online learning because you don't feel as awkward bringing up questions, bringing up thoughts after the fact, and that sort of aspect of it, I actually liked a little bit better than being in person. So altogether, I would have to say I really enjoyed it. My email is claudia@temple.edu if you have any questions for me.